recognize that the Ho-Chunk Administrative Center occupies the land of the Ho-Chunk people. Please take a moment to celebrate and honor this ancestral Ho-Chunk land and the sacred lands of all Indigenous people. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mr. Abraham?
Here.
Ms. Baumann?
Here.
Ms. Como?
Here.
Dr. Cooperstall?
Here.
Dr. Jimenez?
Here.
Ms. Leahy?
Here.
Mr. Lee?
Here.
Mr. Korberg? Mr. Spivey?
Is absent. A quorum of the Board of Education is present, so the regularly scheduled meeting of March 21st, 2022 is called to order, and we'll now have the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and face the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Tonight's agenda has previously been distributed to the board with a motion by Mr. Korberg and a second by Ms. Como. We will approve the agenda as submitted unless there is a motion to amend. Is there a motion to amend? Hearing no motion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion has carried, and we will move on to public speakers.
Tonight, we have the Central High School Student Senate. So I would invite Ms. Workus up, as well as her team of students, to introduce themselves and speak with us tonight.
Hello, and thank you for having us. My name is Ella Lisney. I'm a senior at Central High School, and I've been a member of Student Senate for 3 years. This group has been one of my favorite things to be a part of in high school, and I'm proud of all the things that we have accomplished. Tonight, you'll be hearing from some of our senators about projects that we've been working on this year.
Hello, my name is Aya Klein-Borgert. I'm a freshman at Central High School, and I live in the Crosse School District. Going back to school is really hard for me. My 7th and 8th grade years, I was completely online, so I didn't really get to experience middle school. And I was completely separated from my other classmates who had already gone back in person, and I felt excluded from my school. So high school was a big change for me. It felt like I kind of jumped from 6th grade to 9th grade without any preparation. But when I joined Student Senate, it was like a whole new world had opened up for me. I got to experience my freshman year from a completely different perspective. And although I'm sure it was different before the pandemic, it seemed like everything was kind of returning to normalcy. One of the things that I personally think helped my fellow freshmen transition was our Olympic week. For the first time in years, students were able to safely celebrate their school spirit, and well, of course, we were still in a pandemic, and one of our main traditions, the snowball dance, had to be canceled due to COVID. But nonetheless, we bounced back with twice the amount of spirit, and were able to put on a safe and fun Olympic week that raised school spirit for everyone. Students decorated their hallways with their class colors. We played fun lunchroom games like Mario Kart and trivia. There were assembly games, and we also ran a very successful food drive. This year's Olympic week was different from previous years, but I would argue that it had a bigger effect than ever before, and I look forward to raising even more school spirit next year.
My name is Porter Culp. I'm a sophomore at Central High School, and I reside in the school district of La Crosse. Because I'm a sophomore, about half of my high school experience has so far been virtual. An obvious consequence of that was that outside of my class periods, there was very little student connection. Club meetings, sports, and other group events were either limited to only being online or canceled altogether. I noticed this continued even after school returned to some normalcy at the end of the past student year. But this year has been different. I have noticed that, and it's made me really happy with clubs being able to meet more regularly, and in-person attendance in those clubs has risen significantly. Part of increasing the visibility of our clubs at Central is our club mural. This is a mural, and it's a composition of many different painted canvases that each highlight one of our school's student groups. These include clubs, sports, and music programs. However, this mural had not been updated for several years, and many of the groups that were in it no longer exist, and many new clubs had been created since then and were not represented. The Student Senate has recently been working to fix this. We have contacted all of clubs, sports, and other groups about getting a new canvas for their club created. We've also had several painting sessions after school for all of our clubs to take part in. We are looking forward to completing this, and it'll likely happen very soon. This is important to me because when I read Essential last year for the first time, I felt like there was no school spirit or connection between any of our students. It was very isolating, and I felt very alone because I really didn't know anyone. But seeing this club mural makes me really happy because I feel like incoming freshmen from this year and also years in the future and oncoming, I hope they see this and realize that there is a place for them in Central and they can find happiness here.
Hi, my name is Ann Long, and I'm a freshman at Central High School that lives in the Crosse School District. As a freshman going to high school, it was a very unique experience having to challenge myself in more ways than one. Due to being mostly virtual through 7th and 8th grade, it was very difficult for me to adapt in the environment. Getting used to talking and communicate has been a large struggle, I know, for many freshmen. Being able to communicate when you need help is a growing problem, not only for freshmen but for all high schoolers. As a result, building a safe environment for the students is of high value for me. Student Senate did a dodgeball tournament fundraiser this year. It was a good way for students to get to know each other after such a long time of being online. Dodgeball and many other fundraisers brought much needed sense of welcoming and a safe community Central. Along with Dodgeball, Central Student Senate has done many more fundraisers, such as sending carols and candy canes to friends. This has increased the amount of population participation and school involvement for many students. When I first got to Central, I could tell there was a large lack in involvement, especially for sophomores and freshmen, who were just getting new to the environment after such a long time of being online. With this fundraiser, Student Senate has done a really good job making a positive impact for the students' sense of community at Central High School. Another problem the Student Senate has been trying to remedy is a mental health problem going throughout high schoolers. Along with having good resources for students to use and speak out about their mental health, other problems they've seen, for example, P3 campus, Student Senate has made effort to make sure to advertise safe and efficient ways for students to speak out on problems they see around them. Although resources like P3 campus are good and advertising for them for more resources should be available for students struggling with mental health. For example, having counselors create better relationships with students and direct them accordingly to the right resources. Overall, I think we have made a good step in the right direction towards the well-being and mental health Central Student Senate. Thank you for having us here tonight and for including the voices of the students.
Thank you all.
Thank you. We'll move on to the approval of the superintendent's consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the items on the superintendent's consent agenda as presented.
Second.
The consent agenda is a mechanism used by the board to deal with routine business that must come before the body. Are there any items that the members want to remove from the consent agenda? Hearing none, with a motion by Mr. Korberg and a second by Ms. Como, the items on the superintendent's consent agenda are approved as presented unless there's objection. Is there objection? Hearing no objection, we'll move on to the approval of the board consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the items on the board consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay. Are there any items that the members want to remove from the board consent agenda? Hearing none, with a motion by Mr. Korberg and a second by Ms. Como, the items on the board consent agenda are approved as presented unless there is objection. Is there objection? Hearing none, we'll move on to the information portion of the agenda and move to the Operational Expectation Monitoring Report, OE 10, Learning Environment. I believe there might be some proposed changes from the administration. Dr. Engel?
That's correct. So per our kind of regular cycle of operating expectations and results monitoring, we also bring back opportunities for changes that the board could approve or suggest themselves. In this case, we actually do have a couple of recommendations that I will let Dr. Harsey lead us through.
Yeah, good evening, board members. We do have 3 suggestions or recommendations for the board to consider. Before I get to those, just a carryover from March 7th when we first presented this, one of the pieces of data that we were hoping to bring forward to the board tonight to include in the report was the youth risk behavior survey data from the DPI. I'm sorry to report that still has not been released by the DPI, so that data is not included in the report as of yet. The 3 suggestions for the board's consideration, the first one's in 10.1, and the way that we laid this out, we actually put them side by side for the board to kind of consider. The first one is really about alignment, and so in the indicator, we have considerations around safety, belonging, and encouragement in our initial document. We are suggesting that we include safety, belonging, and support. Reason being, in the Youth Risk Behavior Survey data in 2017, the youth at YRBS eliminated their question around encouragement, but they do have one around support, which does align with what we're asking in this particular OE 10.1. We do happen to have a question around support in the youth student climate survey that we have, so it would create some alignment throughout. And if you remember in the document that we presented on the 7th, we just put NA there because the alignment wasn't there any longer. So that would be the first recommendation. The second recommendation is in 10.2, indicators 3 and 4. We're just asking that we flip-flop those 2. It just seems to flow better with the office discipline offenses as the last item in that series. And then further, what we would like to do is we'd like to include data around students that identify as having a disability. That wasn't requested initially. It wasn't something that we had included, but going forward, we feel like that's an important student demographic. And if there's going to be disproportionality, we'd like to keep track of that, report it publicly to the data and report that publicly to the board as well. So those would be the 3 recommendations that we, administration, would like to bring forward.
Questions from the board? I'm not seeing any questions from board members, so I think we are okay with those then. Are there any recommended changes from the board members themselves that they would like to bring up at this time? Hearing none, then the template with the recommended changes will be placed on the board's consent agenda at the next meeting, so we will see that at our next meeting in 2 weeks. Thank you, Dr. Harsey and Dr. Engel, for that. We'll move on to the next item then, which is our 2022-2023 budget development timeline. Dr. Engel.
So this is an element of one of our operational expectations that Ms. Sprang oversees, and it's always a good opportunity to talk about our budgetary process as we're in the heart of it right now. So, Ms. Sprang.
This is our timeline that just gives you that idea that this is where it starts, and eventually in October you see this, and so it's a long process, and this is the timeline which you can expect will be brought to the board for your information, so that when we do get to that point in October, you have seen just about everything that we used to prepare for that. So any questions? Thank you.
Any questions from the board members? Hearing none. Looking forward to another fun year of budgeting, Ms. Sprang. So thank you for your hard work on that. Moving on then to our announcements, and we'll turn it over to Ms. Como.
CISA 4, we had our monthly meeting the first Wednesday of last month. The biggest thing is we are hiring and looking for a new director of that facility, and so tomorrow I have a couple-hour meeting in the evening. Next week I have 2 nights of meetings, so we hopefully will get a new director hired prior to me being off the board, so I will have one last hurrah.
Sounds great. Thank you very much, Ms.
You're
Como.
welcome.
I'll turn it over to Ms. Bauman for the La Crosse Public Education Foundation.
Yep, I just have a real brief announcement. The grants committee met, and we're anticipating awarding around $35,000 of classroom grants. The announcements for those grants will come out in April. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you very much. I only have 2 announcements, along with hearing from our wonderful student senate from Central. We will have 2 student linkages in the first week of April. On April 6th, we will have a student linkage with the Central High School students at 2:30 at the LMC at Central High School. April 8th, we will get a chance to meet with the La Crosse Polytechnic High School students at 1:30 in the loft. So look forward to those, and please let Ms. Stegerwald know if you are able to attend so that we can make sure that you are noted for the attendance for those linkages. And I'll turn it over to Superintendent Engel.
I just have one announcement. I encourage folks to remember to vote on April 5th for the spring nonpartisan primary. Our 3.1 says, understand and exercise the rights and responsibilities of citizenship in our democratic society. So hopefully we've done our job as educators, and the folks that have come through our system in our community will get out and vote.
Sounds great. Thank you very much. We'll move on to agenda planning.
I'll make a motion to approve the April 4th, 2022 Board of Education agenda with any additions or corrections.
Second.
All right, with a move by Mr. Korberg and a second by Ms. Como, we will approve the April 4, 2022 Board of Education agenda with any additions or corrections. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion has carried. Dr. Cooper-Stoll, I'm sure we can dispense with the debriefing for this evening, so I appreciate that. And then we will move into a workshop immediately after this meeting. So thank you very much for the short meeting, everybody.
Are we moving upstairs? Are we moving upstairs?
Downstairs.